Hey guys and girls, welcome to our channel. Today we've got a catback exhaust we're going to be putting on the 98, 99 Honda Civic, I think it is. So you're going to get a little bit of, see how this DNA motoring catback we got. We'll see how this thing actually fits. As you may or may not be able to tell, this is part of the exhaust that's left. And then we had this deal was the other piece, and the holes, the actual exhaust itself has holes, just 8 all through it. You may be able to see this. Yeah, it's got holes all through the exhaust, you know, so so we went ahead and pulled that off. I've got to get this one piece off here, and well, there's actually 2 hangers here, but we'll get that off and we'll be ready to start putting the new setup on. So yeah, here we go. We're about to start putting it on. All right, so there's an actual tool when you take off the rubber hangers on your exhaust. Let's see if I can get you to see these things. These rubber hangers here, they actually, there's an actual tool because it's got a little knot on the back of it and it keeps it from slipping off of it. Well, if you'll take any kind of solvent, any brand, any kind of solvent, lubrication, any kind of like PB Blast or anything of that nature, you're just going for some type of lubrication to let that slip through that piece, because if you don't have the actual tool, it's got a thumb like deal and it actually pushes that out. So if you don't have that, just take you any kind of silicone based spray or any kind of anything used for lubrication or breaking any kind of bolts loose. Just about anything of that nature will allow you to do that. If not, you'll end up fighting those things on when you remove something and when you install it. It'll actually give you trouble putting it on and taking it off. So if you'll do that, I promise you it will make your life easier. Any type of exhaust work, if you're going to reuse the hangers or any of the bushings or anything. And if you get with the little tip on it, you can actually try to get it in there a little bit. The more you can get inside these things, the better off you are. So that right there is a night and day difference on taking off exhaust work. So if you can use that, you definitely want to apply that. So all right, so what I try to do after it's set for just a minute, any type of screwdriver, anything, and because these are pretty durable, these bushings they won't rip super easy or anything. But what I'll do is I'll push something up in there next to that, and that'll allow it to stretch out a little bit, and it should just come right off. You know, it's already a pain to get anyway, but if you'll kind of just kind of help hold it back and kind of move it around there, they should come off with minimum effort. But some are a pain, but most of the time if you got some kind of solvent on it or something, and something to kind of hold back, so when you pull the actual part and you can push back right around the actual where it goes through the hole, you push that back a little bit and that'll help you, you know, kind of work it off the end of it. So that's just something I find that helps me. All right, let's get the new exhaust. All right, so we got the actual back section. So you have to, on the Civics, you have to go over this piece this way. All right, so that'll give you, so where these bushings are hanging down, you actually take these and see how they got the little knots on the end of them. Those are a little harder to get through or take out when they have that kind. But when you put some kind of lubrication on them, it will absolutely just slide right through. See, and we're there, you know. So that's what we're going to have as far as that. And they actually will have some links to them, and that will allow you to slide forward a little if you need to, or back. So I don't tighten any bolts until I get everything I have installed on it, especially an exhaust. I will put everything on. I'll put my gaskets in, and I'll put my bolts in and kind of get them pulled up a little bit where it don't just fall and whatever. But I go through and I tighten all my bolts last. And that way I kind of position where I want everything, you know, I kind of adjust it down and over, kind of, you know, make sure it's not touching anything or any wiring or anything. And I kind of, as I come from the front backwards, I kind of tweak the exhaust and push and pull to where it needs to kind of live. And I try to work with it until I get it to where, you know, it's not on a fuel tank or any kind of wiring or anything. And this is just how I do things. All right, let's go get the second piece. All right, I'm pretty sure this is the next piece. Our next hanger is right here. So it was kind of dried out from where it had sat. So this one will have an actual hanger on it too. So this is kind of where it's going to live, but I need to get that in that hanger. So you can see this is where we're going to be on this next piece. So we're actually going to let it, if it will, chill out right here for a minute, and we'll get a couple of bolts and we'll actually put a gasket in it and put the bolts together so it doesn't lay down like this. All right, so we'll take our gaskets, and when you get something that's got multiple gaskets, always try to compare sizes of your gaskets. Hold them up to your flange, hold them up to each other, make sure you put the right gasket in the right place, and compare your bolts. Make sure, you know, if there's different size bolts, you want to really pay attention to that kind of stuff. With this, it's all the same size bolts, and I think the two gaskets are exactly the same. But you do want to kind of give that a once over to, you know, make sure that they didn't cut something incorrectly and you know, something's not wrong with the gaskets themselves. So you definitely want to check that type of thing. But all right, so what we got going here is we'll try to get this, and I like to face my bolts backwards if I can. Yeah, that's gonna be hard to do by myself, but if I can, I like to face That's good to have two hands if you can, you know. And I've got an actual jack stand somewhere I could probably be using right now, but then I'd have to stop and let it down. And who wants to do it the easy way, right? Let's drop everything that's possibly usable right now. And I literally have dropped both the nuts on here. All right, so I don't know if that's gonna work. I'm gonna have to pick the daggone bolts up here. Yeah, so that's I'm gonna have to get some jack stands to do this. Yep, let's get the jack stands. You want to try to use two people if you can, or if you got jack stands, go get them. All right, so if you have gaskets in that kit, you always want to compare your gasket sizes to make sure you put the right gasket in the right location. And all your bolts, you always want to check your bolts, compare them in size and that type of thing. That way you make sure you're putting the right gasket in the right place, and that way you're not having to back up or chase parts. I've got this thing set up with a couple of jack stands. I don't have any help with me, so let's try our luck here. So, actually, we're shooting for one right now. We're not trying to get them both. We're just trying to get one bolted up. Let's see here. All right, so. You can already see these things ain't gonna want to fit right. I've been thinking that let me have a little issue off of the flange placement. So we might get lucky. We'll see what it does here once we get it connected a little bit better. And me personally, I like to put the bolts, the actual head of the bolt, towards the front of the car, and I like to put the nut on the back here. So that way when I work on it back this way, I can go that way and turn everything loose. I just try to put everything consistently one way, that way I don't have to change my directions on all my stuff, and try to make everything super accessible when you install it. So that way if you're using any kind of tools, you know, my impact will fit, you know, in certain areas or whatever. I know I can get to it. So, all right, let's try the other side and get the gasket to live where it needs to live. There we go. So, and that next piece, I believe, has another hanger on it too, so that will give us some more support here. So, all right, you can see we're snugged up here a little bit. We're not pulled all the way tight, but that gets a jack stand out of our way, so we can let this one down. At least for now, we may use it in a minute. But you can see overall, as far as placement, it's going to actually look okay. We just need to make sure these flanges, once we get it all in, make sure these flanges lay down. We may have to put some heat to them as we tighten to get them. If you put some heat on them and then when you pull them, you know, if one's kind of tweaked out, that heat will allow it to lay down and match up. So once you get it hot enough and you add some pressure to it, the stainless and anything, you know, that will kind of tweak into where it needs to live. Yeah, we can always get it to fit if, you know, if there's a little bit of an issue. But yeah, on to the next piece. Right, so we're on our third and final piece. The back this way, that's the back of the manifold right here. We don't have that piece yet. So we're only going to be able to make it to, you know, so far, so we won't finish it today. All right, so we'll be working with another 2-bolt flange, and this thing has a place for a double hanger here and here, but we don't actually have one on this side. I don't know if it's been tore off or if it just never had one, but these hanger here, you try to put a little something on them to allow them to slip right where they need to live. So yeah, just way easier. Yeah, and so it has to go that far back to actually grab. And like I say, this side is a 3-bolt flange. So when you buy your, if you buy this DNA motoring setup, you will need to buy a 2-bolt to a 3-bolt test pipe if you're going to run a test pipe on the back of this, which is, I think that's pretty standard on these type of exhausts. But we get our gasket in, get a bolt started, and I guess I should probably get them ready. Yeah, so you definitely want to get your bolts and stuff ready before you do anything like this. That way you're not having to fight it and hold it. Luckily, when I rented this place, this guy had these jack stands, and I've used them quite a bit. They've definitely been big help for sure. And I think we're gonna have to let this one down the hair to get to it. So here we go. We're gonna give her a shot. Let's make sure we're rolling the right way. We're rolling the right way. Get our bolt in the right place. Get our bolt started maybe. Come down slow. And when you're doing stuff like this, you make your own conditions. You know, you make it easier on yourself when you're doing any type of work. You definitely want to, if it's hot, plan on, you know, having something to cool off with, water or that type of stuff. I work construction, and you know, on some of those sites they provide, you know, that type of stuff for you, and sometimes they don't. But just take care of yourself. You know, make sure you have, you know, something to drink, something for hydration. If it's hot out, if it's cold, keep yourself warm. That type of thing. Just, I'm getting older now, and I notice these type of things, you know. So when I was a young fella, I wouldn't carry the way, you know. Let's just get it done. Let's get it installed. I want this exhaust on this car, you know. But the older I get, the more I see different things, you know, that matter, that used to not. So bear with me when it comes to talking like old people now. It's strange, I know. But all right, so we got one in. You can see what we got going here. It's a mess. Get this other one started here. See, this thing's fitting a little crazy already. Yeah, so we're gonna have to do some tweaking on it, I think. When you're installing it, you know, you can't tell 100% about what it's gonna do, because you got hangers with stress on them that are, you know, twisting and all that. So when you actually get everything like it needs to live, and I'm probably too high on the piece anyway, but it's about as far as we can go without the actual, I dropped a washer somewhere, but that's about as far as we can go without the test pipe piece. But now I've let the pressure off of it, it's gonna lay in pretty nice, I think, if I can find this washer. There it goes. So I'll get this washer changed out, and I'll come through and I'll kind of try to tweak everything a little bit, and we may tighten it up just to get an idea of fitment, see how it's looking. So yeah, let me get this changed and we'll see. All right, so this is what we can get bolted in today. So there's the tip. So it looks pretty close what it needs to live. You can see it doesn't hang down anything extreme, and that's going to be when we start tightening it up. That'll actually pull up some of that, and when we actually hook it to the engine on the actual cap piece. So you can see I had this piece. So it's a 2-bolt flange. So I had it flipped over 180. So all I did was roll it back over. And what you run into, see how this doesn't have a hanger on this side? It's for multiple fitment applications, or this is just missing a hanger, but I don't think it's missing a hanger at all. The factory one only had one piece on it. And so as we get further this way, we get to the 3-bolt flange, which is that jewel. And once we get our test pipe in, we will get that bolted up. So we're missing this section from here to, let's see if I can get you. We're missing the section from here, the end of this 3-bolt to this piece. Well, our oxygen sensor comes out up here, so that oxygen sensor will live in that test pipe piece. But overall, it can use a little tweaking. But again, that's going to be, you know, once we get the test pipe piece in and we can get it all cinched in and pulled up tight. But overall, I think a lot of that dip in it right there will actually go away once we get our test pipe piece in and get it pulled up. You can see the flanges are still loose. Once those flanges tighten up, both sides. That's going to give us, you know, that lift, some of that lift anyway. And then once we get that piece up there tied in, that will actually give us some more of it. So there it is, DNA motoring. As far as fitment, I think for what we're using it for, yeah, $100, no problem. Yeah, all day long. And once we start actually cinching down on everything, I want to get that last piece in when it gets here. Once we actually start tightening everything up, that will allow us to kind of get a better gauge on fitment once we get all the pieces of the puzzle, and we'll see a little more about how the sway and the exhaust here comes out. And I could probably actually put another hanger up here and might be able to pull some of that out too, but I want to, before I do anything, I want to tie this in and then work my way from the front backwards, tightening everything up, and I'll be able to tell more about what it actually needs. Right now it's, you know, still kind of tweaked wherever it wants to be. But yeah, would I buy this product, DNA motoring? One of your cheaper exhausts, $100 I think, give or take, somewhere right in there. And it's an axle back, does not have the, or a cat back rather, does not have the test pipe section for the actual cat. So you will need, if you don't have any exhaust and you just got a manifold, you will need a test pipe or something to fill that void. There's going to be a gap, and this is just in the Hondas, you know, so in the 98, 99, well probably 96, 92 to 2000 two-door and four-doors. It's going to be pretty similar, I would say. But this test pipe piece, and then we'll have it together. And like I say, I got my O2 sensors coming. This is the only code this car had, was the O2. And I figured out why this thing was actually twisted up pretty bad. So when I took it all out, I found why it was messed up. But yeah, I mean, I don't feel like it was a bad purchase. And this is our finance car too. So, you know, it's going to be when we put out for finance, just try to get some halfway decent affordable car. And normally I wouldn't have probably bought the exhaust. Yeah, maybe I may have. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. But I was looking at the O2 sensor because it had that code, and that's the only code it had. And I've changed the motor and everything out in this car, and for it to only have that code, I wanted to look at it and see, you know, what was causing it, or maybe it was something going on or just bad, and I was going to replace it. So it ended up, the wires were pulled out of it. It's pretty torn up when I got it. And then I realized how bad the exhaust was, so I decided to go ahead and change all that out too. But we're waiting on that piece, the oxygen sensor, and the test pipe. And then this project will be finished. This car will be ready to finance. Got brand new tires on it. I did not put the AC on it. I'm not worried about that right now. I need to get this one moved. I need to get the Subaru Outback. I'm working on it. It's 2010. And I have my LS Swap GMC Canyon that's coming down to the final stretch. I've got the transmission lines. I've got to find a piece there and tie in some the fuel pump, the shifter still, and some just small stuff. And then once I get the truck down, I'm gonna set the carb and put the radiator in and do some other stuff, you know, some bigger stuff, and then start the electrical on the MSD setup for that truck. We're getting there. And then I got a fuel pump coming for the drift car, the 350Z, and I'm gonna work out some bugs on that. We're almost ready to go drifting again. we may go, if I can get everything squared away. I got kind of away from what I was doing here on the shop, working on finance cars and that type of thing. I got more into projects, so I gotta kind of back up and punt here and get some of these projects out versus my toys. They're all my cars, you know, ultimately. You know, I don't have anybody pushing me. But I need to get some of these sold. If I get them sold, to get them out of my way, and we get more money to buy parts with. So it makes sense to me. Let's get some of this stuff knocked out, get some money in the bank, get some better parts for drift stuff. Makes sense to me. But again, at the same time, I've got rentals. So I've got one that's about to be empty. We're gonna have to paint it, so we may be a little bit of a break in the videos, maybe not. We're trying to not we like to keep them moving, and we may work on that, and we may even go over there and start filming something. I don't know yet. But all right, stay with us. This is our DNA motoring exhaust install on our EK is what they call it. I don't know if you're familiar with the Honda Civics, but they call it EK body style. There's EG, EK, EF, DA Integras, and all that stuff. But it's a 96 to 2000 4-door, so it will be pretty much the same on that. And I think the 2-door is pretty similar. I think the hatchback is going to be a different setup. So, but yeah, if you want to know how to do the exhaust on that thing, it's super simple. No big deal. It's good to have somebody to help. From what I experienced, just kind of doing it myself. The second hand definitely isn't going to hurt. But yeah, I think DNA motoring, I think it's definitely worth the money. And all right, stay tuned. We'll finish it up when we get the other parts. We may throw that in there if we get it before this video goes up, which is possible. I think we may. But yeah, check us out. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe. So if you don't have an account, set up an account. It's free. Set up a YouTube account, and there's a little bell. When you hit the little bell, that'll alert you to our new videos and all that type of stuff. That way you can keep up with anything we release. And so we're on Instagram. If you want to follow us on Instagram, we're on Twitter. We have an email. If you want to email us, it is chesserenterprises@yahoo.com. If you want to email us any kind of information, you want to ask anything, just want to give us a shout out or anything like that, we appreciate you guys. We're on Facebook as well, so just keep an eye out for us, and we're going to keep putting videos out, and stay tuned until we get to the next one. Here we go.